My name is Nolan Flexen. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents both went to church. I grew up going to Bible study on Wednesday nights and Bible class on Sunday mornings. Grew up Church of Christ, so very old school, singing hymns, taking communion every week, very set in stone. Never really knew what a true Christian was or what being saved was like. You just thought, oh, I'm a Christian, I go to church, I'm saved, like any little kid thinks. You listen to all the Bible stories and you enjoy playing David and Goliath in the yard. Just did that. We moved around a lot. We weren't in the military. My mom likes to move. And so been to a lot of different churches, never really found a set community that we were a part of. And when we moved to New Mexico, we got involved in a church. It started off as a home church and super small, and we made very good connections. And they had friends who were in the band. One night we ended up going to one of their concerts, and they had a little sermon kind of in there, like with how to be saved and all this stuff. And 12-year-old me was in there thinking, this is something real. I just don't know if I can grasp it yet. I thought I had it. We got home that night, and I just felt this wave of emotion rush over me, and I started breaking down crying, and I didn't know why. And my mom came into the room to check and see if I was okay, and she just said, like, what are you feeling? And I just remember telling her, I'm scared because I want to be saved like he was talking about tonight. I just don't know how. It was a very scary feeling, not knowing, especially at 12 years old, knowing that you could die and end up going to hell, but you don't really know how to get to the other spot. And we had a bunch of long talks that night. My parents were very encouraging, and they said, well, you need to give yourself to Christ. You need to surrender yourself. That night we prayed, and I surrendered myself to Christ at 12 years old. And it's only been more hard since then. Being a Christian's a journey, and I went to high school, got involved in sports, and soon my first trials and temptations started coming. Pride took over very easily, and I started to fall away from Christ. And I still said I was a Christian, but I never really paid any attention in church or really cared to hear, because I was chasing my fleshly desires instead. I ended up getting a scholarship to go to college to play volleyball. I continued to fall further away from Christ in that. My pride continued to suck me up, and I just kind of put God on the back seat and just said, here, let me handle this. This is my life, right? And had some traumatic and horrible experiences in that through athletics. And I just remember sitting there in study hall, and I was behind on classes. I was just trying to get some homework done, and I'd been feeling this need to reset some things. I just didn't know what it was. And I hadn't picked up my Bible in 4 months, and I hadn't gone to church the entire time I was at school. So I really was kind of out of it again, like not knowing where to be. And I just started shuffling some of the old Christian music and hymns that I had saved on my phone. And the first song that came up was Home by City of Light, saying like, I'm running, but Jesus, bring me safely home. And in that moment, I broke down. I was crying in the middle of this study hall, surrounded by a bunch of my athlete friends, and I was kind of embarrassed, but I texted my mom and I said, hey, I don't need to be here anymore. This isn't for me. And 2 weeks later, I left, packed up all my stuff, and I ended up going back home, but I was still chasing after that pride of sports. I had put all my identity in athletics, that when I got back home, it just wasn't the same. I thought didn't have anything. And I knew that God called me out of that, but I just didn't know why. And I wouldn't say depressed, but I got really down on myself. I didn't try to hurt myself, but you always have those thoughts of, what if I wasn't here, you know? And so just really down, and I eventually, about 2 months after all of that, just not eating, not sleeping, I started picking back up again, and I got another scholarship to play at another school. And then things happened 2 months later, and they shut it down, and that wasn't going to be an option anymore. But I knew that God was closing these doors for a reason, and He was calling me out of that because I knew what my life would be like if I had gone there. And so I decided to turn all that down, and I moved out here to Texas shortly afterwards, and I got involved with the college ministry, and now I'm a leader and able to serve this church. And God has taught me through all of this that He will never leave your side, no matter what. And even though you're wandering from Him, and we're prone to wander, He'll always be there with open arms waiting for you, regardless.